Well, hello everyone to this new lecture. Uh, Today's topic is diverse types of lustful details. Well, mm, this topic is essential, is crucial to our esoteric work, for our esoteric work. Because one of the most important things here for us is chastity. To achieve the chastity, which is something absolutely opposite of lust. Don't get confused, please, with the word celibacy. Celibacy has no relation with the word chastity. Right? When we talk about chastity, we're talking about the pureness having sexual intercourse. For us here, sex is something sacred. And when anyone gets this inner state applied in this physical world, it's because the person hates sex. The person doesn't like sex anymore. Pureness in sex, hate for sex. Both words are totally different. They don't have relation. Right? Now, it's pretty important for us today to talk about sex and different sexual behaviors in an honest, direct, and serious way. And need something for our own good, and even for a common good. Right? And when we talk about sex, if we talk about chastity or lust, it's necessary to understand that at the same time we're talking about fire, the sexual fire. Alright? And fire has two different aspects. When we work in chastity, we are going to develop something called here in these esoteric studies kundalini, which means that our sexual fire, our sexual creative energy transmuted, goes all the way up through our dorsal spine, vertebra by vertebra. And the second aspect of fire related with, associated with lust is kundartiguador. The sexual fire, if we continue spilling our sexual creative energy in our sexual intercourses, in our sexual relations, our fire goes into the atomic hells inside of each one of us. So we make the decision. If any one of us want to be serious with the work of sex, trying to achieve chastity, and for that is necessary to first develop, to awake our own sacred fire, which is the same kundalini, we work transmuting the sexual creative energy with a person of the opposite sex. But if definitely, no matter what, we want to continue spilling our sexual creative energy, we are going to develop more and more this inner organ, also called satanic tail. And in fact, this is the meaning of the word convertiguador, satanic tail. All of us without exception, is necessary to consider, to say this, firstly, during this introduction of this lecture, all of us without exception has already developed the convertiguador. In the fifth dimension, in the astral world, right there internally, all of us can see our own satanic tail, due to the reality, due to the fact that since hundreds and even thousands of years ago, we've been spilling our own sexual creative energy, and the result of it is the creation of the satanic tail. Right? We already know that no matter what and any way sexual creative energy creates, right? Its function is to create. With an egg and one sperm, we reproduce the species, right? With an egg and sperm, we reproduce the species, the human species. But also, working with the common sexual practices we've been learning during all this current human existence, we've been creating more ego, more psychological effects. The ego, these psychological effects were created thanks to the spilling of our sexual energy, thanks to fornication. We talk about the word fornication, we are talking about the spilling of the sexual creative energy. Right? We may reproduce the human species, and also we've been reproducing more and more psychological effects, also called ego. Right? There are three different types of sexology. Suprasex, number one. When we talk about the word suprasex, we talk about the creation of the inner bodies to become ourselves the sons of the light. That's possible through the process of regeneration called sexual alchemy, transmutation of our own sexual creative energy. Right? Sons of the light. Superior sex. Regeneration. To regenerate ourselves and to help others in their own regeneration, it's necessary to learn first how the practice is, how the suprasex practice is, and then to practice it, to prove it, and gradually at the same time, little by little, try to teach others in this type of sexuality. Second type of sexology is called normal sex. Normal sex. Well, when we talk about normal sex, if we here talk about regeneration, we are talking here about something called generation. Without the fornication, without the spilling our sexual creative energy, transmuting our sexual creative energy, it's possible to cause the reproduction of the human species. The divine mother of the man and the divine mother of the woman take one sperm and one egg, and they join them together in the fifth dimension of the universe. And it means that a new human being has been generated. Through transmutation of sexual energies in this called normal sex, this is without fornication. It means without spilling the sexual energy, it's possible to continue with the reproduction of human species. And the other type of sexology is infrasex, which is the one that most of us, probably and seriously, 99% of our current mankind has been practicing usually. It's called degeneration. And at the same time, it means reproduction of the ego with fornication. Each time we spill our sexual creative energy, more and more new psychological defects are created. Reproduction of the ego. Reproduction of the ego. Yes, with fornication. Because without fornication, learning to transmute our sexual creative energy will achieve chastity. Will awake our own sacred fire, our own kundalini, to create our own inner bodies, to have real representation in the superior dimensions of the universe, of nature. Alright? Why is it necessary for us to study our own lust? Well, one reason is because we should, and in fact we need, to achieve chastity, to seek power and creation. Another reason or argument why it is necessary for each one of us to study our own lust, L-U-S-T, is to rescue the trapped fire that is inside of each one of our own psychological defects. It's necessary to become, third reason is necessary to become our own sexual intercourses in something more and more pure. Otherwise, we won't get never chastity. These inner works, inner sexual works, are guided and led by our own Divine Mother. In our astral experiences, in that called dreams, yes, in that called dreams in the astral world, and even also in our meditation practices, will receive the guide of our own Divine Mother in order to continue with the study of our own psychological details, specifically our lustful details. Also, it's necessary to work with something called self-reflection, analysis, to recognize, to accept all those weaknesses, all those sexual weaknesses. All of us, without exception, are too weak when we talk about lust. Right? The good thing about all these studies, sexual studies, yes, but if we want to talk authentic esotericism, it's necessary to talk about sex, is that inside of each one of all those psychological, sexual weaknesses that all of us carry inside is trapped and are trapped virtues, powers, faculties, inner bodies, love, peace, wisdom, objective knowledge, chastity, in order to finally deserve and to achieve, in fact, our own self-realization. Right? Now, let's do something else here. I'm going to delete all this information. Let's see. We have here our mind, right? And our mind is full of justifications, excuses for continuing with the same type of sexual life that we've been creating since, too many human existences before. Our mind creates all different type of excuses to continue having sexual intercourses in the same way because we like to feel pleasure. We love feeling pleasure. We are self-deceived by our own mind, our degenerated mind. Now, something else here is the desire. All of us, without exception, specifically if we honestly want to continue with our spiritual process, all of us carry desire inside. And talking about desire, we should talk about fornication. We do have the desire of fornicating. All of us carry our own psychological fornicators' defects. And a third aspect is something called bad will. If we don't develop, if we don't correct our own bad will to develop goodwill, to work for our own inner being, in order to achieve our own self-realization, we'll continue with all those actions to stay as we are in those infrasexual practices, spilling our sexual creative energy with fornication, obviously, to continue with the degeneration, not only of ourselves, but also of our entire society. Right? Mind, desire, and bad will are the three traitors of the Christ. Only by practicing sexual alchemy, without spilling our own sexual creative energy, is possible to release our own Christ. The possibility is open for each one of us, for all of us without exception. But there are some conditions, objective arguments to apply the practice to finally achieve and deserve that inner transformation, working in the work of the Christification. Right? When we learn fornication, we continued with something else called orgasm. We like a lot, too much in fact, this feeling. All of us seek this inner state during sexual practices due to the desire, due to the pleasure inside. Alright? And since previous human existences, hundreds and probably thousands of years ago, the ego has been creating and forming, inventing different types of excuses and justifications to continue spilling the sexual creative energy in that called orgasm and ejaculation of our sacred sperm. Right? For example, one of the most typical practices nowadays of trying to reach, to get the orgasm, in many cases since we were kids, is that infrasexual practice called masturbation. Masturbation is one of the most typical ways to get the orgasm. To make pleasure and desire something bigger, stronger. Remember, we're hypnotized by our own ego. And ego uses thousands of reasons, of arguments, excuses, justifications to continue with the same degeneration. We go to the abyss and we are blinded. It's necessary to learn to change our mind, our concepts, our reasons, ideas, in order to be open to new knowledge. To new things. This is a common practice, typical practice, since we were kids. And nowadays it's something more and more common. There are different types of masturbation. Yes? Individual masturbation in loneliness. Or masturbation collaborated. When it's individual, for example, When a man masturbates himself, it's a man masturbating a man, right? What does it mean? Homosexuality. Most of us have done this specific infrasexual practice. I am not saying that all of us, but yes, most of us. So we've created infrasexual details of homosexuality. In the case of women, when a woman masturbates herself, is a woman masturbating a woman. What does it mean again? Lesbianism. Right? So, many women all around the world in 5 continents, have practiced masturbation. Not only when they were kids, when they were girls, but currently as well. They've been creating a lot of lesbian details. Exactly the same as us men, we've been creating a lot of different details of homosexuality due to this practice, masturbation. Right? In a collaborated way, for example, there are several ways of practicing masturbation with something or with somebody else. One type of collaborated masturbation is, for example, oral sex. The man to his woman, she's woman, right? And the woman to her man. That's a type of masturbation practice. Another type of collaborated masturbation is anal sex. When the woman practices this type of masturbation to her man, to her guy, she creates a homosexual defect. And when the guy practices oral sex to his woman, he creates, instead of him, a lesbian defect inside of his psyche. Anal sex. This is absolutely dangerous. It is not right. Never. Please, never practice oral sex or anal sex or masturbation. These are degeneration processes. Sex is something sacred. Sex is not a game. We've been creating a lot of sexual games with our sexual creative energy. We think and we believe, in fact, that sex is something only for pleasure. For feeling as much as we can, more and more pleasure. And it is not like that. The white brotherhood, divine hierarchies, don't accept these type of infrahuman practices. It is necessary to correct the path, to change the mindset, to practice sexual alchemy. But before of entering into the suprasexual practices, it's necessary to apply self-observation to all these internal desires. Because all of us have them. All of us. It's possible through self-reflection, self-analysis. Sex is not a game. We are going to the abyss and we are blinded. This current sexual degeneration is something never seen before in our mankind, in the rest of the humanities, of the planets of our own solar system. They don't practice all these disgusting things. We are the worst mankind of our entire solar system. People of Jupiter, Ganymedes, Venus, Mars, they have never practiced, and they won't, in fact. They don't accept these infrasexual practices. All of us now, for example, that talking about more practices, more types of individual masturbation, are the practices, for example, with vibrators, machines, artificial vaginas, artificial phalluses, to continue giving pleasure to ourselves. And we think that is normal. We think that is correct. Not all of us, for sure, but many of us believe that there is no inconvenience to continue with that type of practices. Female and male robots are something real currently. Plastic dolls, some decades ago, existed. They were real. Nowadays, we're worse. We've created authentic robots, female and male robots. That's another type of individual masturbation. Please, women, don't practice anal sex, because if you do that, your couple, your man, will develop a specific type of sexual defect called gay. And you ladies, you women, if you practice anal sex with your man, with your guy, you women will create a infrasexual defect in your mind, in your psyche, called Kakorro. Kakorro. Your man, your couple, will become gay gradually, little by little. The more you practice anal sex, which is a different type of masturbation, the easier is to become yourself in a more degenerated person. You'll become more gay and more cacorro if the practice of anal sex continues. And at the same time, remember something, please. When we talk about authentic esotericism, our own karma will increase. All these types of infrasexual practices create a karma called karma duro. It's not possible to pay this karma because all these bad usages with our own sexual energy and with others' sexual energies are considered by the divine law of our solar system crimes against the Holy Spirit. And they are not negotiable. You must pay them with pain and illnesses. All those nations, all those countries that accept as something normal lesbianism, homosexualism, they go to the abyss. In Ganymedes, one of the moons of Jupiter, in fact, Venus, Mercury, in the sun is not a ball of fire, that's a planet with an incredible humanity. They don't accept homosexualism and lesbianism. They are authentic men and authentic women. They don't have to pay karma due to the divine law of our solar system because it doesn't exist in their lives. They respect sex as we have no idea. All those couples are only between a man and a woman. In authentic civilizations, not only in our solar system, in the rest of solar systems of our galaxy called the Milky Way, most of the planets of all our galaxy, authentic and real human civilizations, they don't accept oral sex, anal sex, masturbation, homosexualism, lesbianism, and so on. But incredibly for us, is something already accepted. Even is something usual and common. Incredible but true. And all those authentic civilizations know our sexual practices. In fact, I can tell you something. They are among us. They are living among us, observing us. Obviously, if we don't have our own intuition developed, it's not possible to detect all those aliens that are already among us. They know who we are, more than we think or even believe. And thanks to these infrasexual practices, we go to the abyss. We go to the abyss. But anyway, that's a possibility of changing, for sure. For authentic and serious students of esotericism, if we understand, if we analyze, if we reflect on the reality that sex is something sacred, it's possible to change the way we are. It's possible to enter into sexual alchemy. Alright? Women that have practiced too much, going to the extremes with oral sex, women have created a specific type of psychological effect called incubus. And men have gone to the extremes practicing oral sex, they develop something called succubus. Right? Incubus and succubus. Those psychological effects, believe it or not, they are something material. All those guys and all these women that have practiced oral sex, going to the extremes, too many practices of oral sex during their whole lives, they materialize literally their own incubus and their own succubus. And they see them as people, physical people. And they have more sexual practices at night, believing that they are only physical and common normal people, when in reality, in fact, they are their own creations. Incredible but true. I don't know if you have heard about this authentic situation, this physical world, incubus and succubus. That's a reality. That's true. Now, more excuses, specifically when, for example, we were teenagers, to continue accumulating more and more pleasure, more and more orgasms. Let's talk about something else. Remember, this is not correct. All these practices create karma duro. Karma duro is something called crimes against the Holy Spirit. When we talk about the Holy Spirit, we are talking about our sexual creative energy. Literally, that's all. The Holy Spirit is inside of each one of us because He's the same sexual creative energy. Don't think, don't believe that the Holy Spirit is something external to us. It's our own same sexual creative energy. That's why the divine law of our solar system doesn't accept these types of infrasexual practices. Alright? They don't forgive us. We have to pay this karma with suffering, pains, illnesses, as we have no idea. Let's continue talking with the thing I told you 1 minute ago, approximately, about those behaviors when we were teenagers. Let's see. That all for sure created more and more psychological, infrasexual defects. Probably when we were 15 years old, when we were teenagers, we were dating anyone, right? Hopefully at least of the opposite sex. At least. When we were dating, or when we are dating anyone else, is because we want to get married. Alright? Dating is the previous step to marriage. Or why you date anyone else in your life. If you are not dating anyone else in your life to get, to obtain, to be in a marriage, is only because this is an excuse, a justification of the mind, of the psyche, to continue with fornication. Because obviously when we are dating someone else, at least usually, 95% of the times, we have sex. Usually, when we are dating anyone else, is to have sex. Usually. Alright? So these are specific types of psychological excuses to continue giving ourselves more and more pleasure with this excuse. I don't know if you remember that 1 or 2, 3 previous generations, our parents or our grandparents, great-grandparents, when they were dating their couples, they didn't have sex. They respected dating as we don't really know, as we have no idea. They knew that this was the previous step to be in this state. Alright? But due to the gradual degeneration of our mankind, we've been accepting and creating the idea, already common, already accepted, that when we are dating anyone else, is usual, it's normal. It's not weird as before of having sex. Because we need to feel more pleasure. We need to increase our own desire. And this is an excellent excuse and justification to have more and more sexual intercourses. In fact, infrasexual intercourses. Because when we are dating someone else, it's not only heterosexual relations, but also opportunities to have oral sex, probably anal sex, and yes, currently more and more homosexual relationships and lesbian relationships. And all of us know that it's true. I am not inventing anything here, anything new. It's unfortunately is something true. And we believe that that's normal, that that's right. In other humanities, in different planets of our solar system, all those boys and girls, young people, they don't practice sex until they are probably 21, 25, 30 years old, because they already know that sex is something sacred. But for us, dating is the perfect opportunity to accumulate more pleasure, more desire, more infrasexual knowledges. Alright? But commonly, probably not always, but commonly we don't think that dating is a serious previous step to this state. This is something sacred as well. Marriage is something sacred. It's great and a half, but it's something delicate. It's something essential, crucial in our lives, but we don't think like that. Right? Yeah, for sure. When we practice sex, here specifically when we are dating anyone else, a lot of girls, they can't say women, a lot of girls get pregnant when they are only 13, 15, 17 years old. Mothers at these ages, unacceptable due to our fornication, to that desire of having sex as much as we can, as soon as we can. Mothers and fathers at these ages create a nice and decent society? Do you think that mothers and fathers at these ages create a great, new, better society? I think that the answer is obvious. I won't say the answer because I think it's obvious. The answer is something obvious here. That's why we see the type of society in which we are currently. Without values, without respect, with something never seen before, which is this incredible degeneration, sexual degeneration. That lack of respect to the authority, to the teachers in the rooms, to the police, to our parents, is the result of our sexual degeneration, of our degenerated mind, of our negative sexual desires, pervert sexual desires. When we were kids, right here, oral sex, masturbation, homosexualism, lesbianism are something common and real right now. Only when we are 13 years old. And that's true. And due to our bad will, due to that previous degeneration that comes since several human existences previously, make us to act this way. Our actions currently in our sexual life are something negative. Too much degeneration, as never seen before. Also, open relationships are common nowadays. Many couples believe that this is a chain. They don't want to assume compromises. Marriage is something great, but at the same time, is something delicate. This is the big step in our lives, because it's sharing the rest of our lives with someone else. But more and more teenagers, more and more people all around the world, it is not only in America, Europe, Asia, South America, no, all around the world, they don't want to assume this type of compromise. They prefer only open relationships, not all of them, obviously, but many of those couples, they prefer only open relationships without this type of compromise due to lust. When they get tired of having sex with that person, and in fact the level of tolerance in all those couples is too low, they have the right, they think they have the right to change the couple as they change shoes every day, as they change clothes every day. Yes, probably our great-grandparents were more pure than us. We're better people for sure. For them, it was something crucial, essential, but not for us anymore. This is the type of society in which we are currently. And incredibly, many people believe that we are an authentic civilization, that we are in the correct way. Alcohol, drugs, sexual degeneration, as never seen before. And we believe that we are, yes, a good people. We are good people. That we are in an evolution process. All these sufferings, all these type of infrahuman behaviors, not only associated with sexual practices, no, with everything. All this corruption, lies, murders, rapes, and so on all around the world, the origin is the bad usage of our sexual creative energy, because fornication created the ego. Envy, pride, greed, gluttony, resentments, rancors, hates, traumas, etc., etc., etc. But if we start the transmutation of our sexual creative energy, we'll change our destiny. We'll change our lives. We'll create different families, different types of couples. But for that, it's necessary to first change our mind. Change the way we think and change the way we feel. If seriously we want to enter into the mysteries of sexual alchemy. Reflection, analysis are something with urgency. If seriously we want to change our lives. We are not loyal. Many of us, not all of us, but yes, many of us, we are not loyal to our couples. Adultery is something more common than we think. Adultery is something more typical than we think. In continents like South America, Latin America, for example, yes, probably Europe as well, Asia, I don't know if in America, but in several continents of our planet Earth, adultery is something more and more common each day, right? And it creates karma. It creates karma, right? When we date anyone else, for example, is to know the psychology of our lady, of our woman. Is for you women to know male psychology. That's all. Yes, you may have kisses, hugs, but try to never have sexual practices. Well, sexual intercourses, penetration, alright? Sexual intercourses are only for marriages. Yes, I know probably this is an old and antique idea, something unacceptable nowadays. But anyway, and excuse me, I have to give you this information. Believe it or not, when we are dating anyone else, it's for example, at least 2 years, 3 years, or okay, 1 year and a half, to know that psychology, that mind, to know if that woman has good feelings. If, for example, she is not following our money, our financial situation, if she's not interested in something more than our own inner being, for example. And exactly the same, vice versa for sure, obviously. Right? If after 1.5, 2, 3 years of dating anyone else in our lives, we make the decision of getting married, excellent, go ahead. Perfect. Unfortunately, yes, adultery is something common nowadays. Not only we men are being unloyal to our women. Unfortunately, women are the same thing as we men. Adultery is a fact in men and women in a high percentage currently. In a high percentage currently, this is true. And it creates karma, suffering. And remember something, please. We receive what we give. Never forget this situation in our lives. Karma law is the fundamental law in our entire universe. We receive what we give. Not only talking about financial situations, family situations, with our coworkers, etc., etc., with our classmates, any type of social relationships. Talking about marriage, dating, the usage of our sexual creative energy, it also works. And all of us have karma by adultery. All of us have betrayed our couples. Probably not in this current existence, but we don't remember our previous human existences. The divine love of our solar system, being led and guided by Master Anubis and his 42 judges of karma, they know that all of us without exception have betrayed our couples in previous human existences. That's why I may affirm that all of us without exception have karma by adultery. Why is that? Where is the reason? Where is the origin? The cause of all these behaviors? In our ego. Through self-observation and the inner petition, as soon as we detect those desires of watching or looking at another woman, or you ladies, to watch, to desire a different man, immediately there comes the inner petition, my Divine Mother, please delete me this detail, this desire. Alright? Because you are not only betraying your couples physically, with your mind, with your lower emotions, with all those inner sexual desires, we are unloyal at the same time. So pay attention as much as you can to your mind, to your heart, and to your sex. In those three different magnetic centers, all those infrasexual desires, infrasexual psychological defects, they appear. They control our magnetic centers, our human machines, yes, our physical bodies, and we create more and more karma, more and more suffering. And this chain of degeneration is something that is necessary to break as soon as we can, at least in our own lives, at least to change our own destiny. It's possible. It's an open possibility for any one of us. If seriously and honestly we have the yearn to change our lives. Right? Also, many times, we men, having sex with our woman, we use the vagina to masturbate ourselves. Many times women use the vagina only to masturbate ourselves. It's necessary to understand that if we want to make love, we make love during a sexual intercourse. But to learn to make love, it's necessary to practice sexual alchemy. Only by practicing sexual alchemy, it's possible to make love. In these sexual intercourses, with the spilling of the sexual, spilling the sexual creative energy, we are not making love. we are accumulating and creating more pleasure, more desire, more adulteries, more subdivisions of infrasexual practices, going directly to the abyss. Self-deceit, thinking that we are good people, believing that seriously there is no inconvenience with all these different types of infra practices. Right? Adultery, for example, creates more and more types of sexual defects. In the case of us men, we create a specific type of psychological trait called Mr. One. Yes, that's the name in esotericism. Excuse me, I know that probably it makes you laugh or it makes you smile. But I just tell you this situation. And in the case of lady, when a lady has betrayed her man, she creates inside of her psyche Mrs. Ines. That's another type of sexual defect, infrasexual defect. Right? When we are mothers or fathers at these ages, have you seen the consequences, for example, talking about the financial thing, the financial matter, how your life changes immediately, how you probably damage your own life just by giving pleasure to you and to your couple when you were these ages? Your life changes immediately. Having the possibility of living life in a correct way, thanks to our sexual desires, with any type of justifications, these type of psychological effects take control of our human machine, and we can't control ourselves sexually. And each time, with each new generation in our planet Earth, this is something happening sooner than later. Right? Having the possibility of going abroad, of traveling, of studying something that you really want from the bottom of your heart, to continue in a decent way your life. All those sexual desires, all those fornicators that we've been creating since previous human existences, damage and change our lives, our destinies. If you want to practice sex, please just do it once per day. Even if it's with ejaculation. And if you want to transmute your sexual creative energy, yes, only once per day. Divine hierarchies don't allow us to, for example, practice sex when the woman is pregnant twice per day. They don't allow us that. Immediately, if we practice sex twice per day, or when our woman is pregnant, or when she is sick, he or she is sick, in the case of you ladies also, immediately we create something called karma duro. Crimes against Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is around sexual creative energy. Right? When you're in pregnancy, sickness, when you, he, she, your couple, yes, referring to your couple, don't or doesn't want to practice not only the common sexual intercourse, but also sexual alchemy, right? It creates more karma. Remember, please, only once per day. Sexual glands work 20 hours each one. Each one of them, we have 2 sexual glands. They work alternately each 20 hours. That's why if we practice twice per day, even if it's heterosexual sex, normal sex, spilling the sexual creative energy, or even practicing sexual alchemy, that's not allowed by the divine hierarchies. Because we are committing violence against our own physical body, against our own sexual glands. Remember, they work alternately each 20 hours. Right? That's the reason, that's the objective argument why it's not correct to practice sex twice per day. Right? Never have sexual relationships in this state. Never if you or your couple is sick, or when simply you or your couple don't want. Remember, yes, I don't want to bother you. It is necessary to know the requirements for having a correct sexual life. The more lustful we are, the more jealous we are. The more lustful we are, the more possessive we are. Through self-observation, detecting all those lustful emotions, lustful thoughts, lustful desires, immediately, if possible, there comes the inner petition to our Divine Mother mentally to delete gradually, little by little, all those inner desires, inner sexual desires, in order to purify our own sexual creative energy. So that when we go to the sexual alchemy practice, all that released essence will go vertebra by vertebra to create all those inner bodies, to transform ourselves. Yes, to change ourselves gradually, little by little. That's possible. But only for practitioners. Only if we start with the elimination of the origin of all our lustful behaviors. If we don't delete all those inner desires, infrasexual intentions that become realities, we won't change. It's necessary to observe our mind gradually, carefully, little by little, in order to detect the cause, the reason of our sexual sufferings. When we have bad will, for example, towards our couple, when we feel desires for a different person instead of our couple, immediately, please, just try. The inner petition to your own Divine Mother. Divine Mother, please delete me this inner sexual desire, this bad will towards my couple, this bad thought to this girl, to this woman, which is not my couple. And gradually, immediately, you feel the purification inside. And that's the way to change externally. If we change internally with correct procedures, it's absolutely possible to change externally, to finally change our destinies, to feel, to see the change inside and outside. Right? The more yellows we are, for example, the bigger the possibility of falling in witchcraft or sorcery. For example, more couples than we think or than we believe already fall in witchcraft. They talk secretly. It doesn't matter if it's the guy or the woman. They talk secretly. They call to a person that has the power of controlling the other person, the couple, from the fifth dimension of the universe. Witches or wizards are something real, and they know how to control couples if we ask for it. Obviously, here we are talking about not only the desire, but also about money, because obviously you should pay a specific quantity amount of money for having this result. Many couples currently all around the world, due to this psychological defect, jealousy, that's why I told you some minutes ago, the more lustful we are, the more yellows we are. And the more yellows we are, the bigger is the possibility of falling in witchcraft. Different witches, wizards have the power to control our lives or others' destinies, specifically talking about our couples. So that attachment, that link, continues for the future human existences. We'll continue repeating the same behavior in future existences due to this type of psychological defect, which is due to lust. Right? And yes, we'll continue accumulating more and more karma. Remember, we receive what we give, no matter what are our beliefs, our ideas, our reasons, our, yes, concepts about life, about esotericism, about karma. Remember something that, and please analyze it, reflect on it. We receive what we give. Let's build our current relationships with faith, trust, respect. If we change ourselves with correct procedures, that's why we teach here psychological death, the elimination of the ego, which is the cause of all these sexual sufferings and the rest of our sufferings. Our families, our relationships will be better, for sure. Depends on us. It depends on us. It depends on the work, the esoteric work we make inside. Right? Sexual harassment, rape, etc., 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 are only consequences of the three traitors of the Christ: mind, the desire, and the bad will. During conference number 44, we'll be explaining and analyzing each one of the traitors of the Christ, because they command, they control our lives, our destinies. And they want to avoid us of achieving our own self-realization. Please be careful and observe your mind, your tiny desires, your short moments of bad will towards your couple, because they are going to lead you to negative actions that will give you karma or dharma, depending on how you react in relation, in interaction with the external influences you and all of us receive from the external world. Yes, talking specifically about sexual situations. This conference is about lustful details. Remember, fire is temptation. And the sexual fire is not an exception. The triumph over temptation is light. Our wisdom, our light is inside of all these type of psychological effects. Right? Ask yourself, yes, why do I like to feel this way when I am having a sexual intercourse? Why do I like to feel this way? Why do I like to move this or that way while having sexual intercourses? Yes, because inside of all our movements, desires, feelings, while we're having sexual intercourses, for sure, there are several or too many sexual defects controlling our sexual practices. Self-observation, even during our sexual intercourses, is essential, is crucial to know more ourselves in order to change, to make something different of our sexual life, to hopefully sooner than later enter into the mysteries of sexual alchemy. Right? Pornography is a type of masturbation as well. Yes, we like a lot, we love watching pornography. That's another type of masturbation. But we are hypocrites. Probably, or almost sure, we can't watch pornography if we have our mother next to us, right? Yes, pornography is something practiced in loneliness, for example, usually in loneliness. But if we have our kids, our sister, our mother right next to us, we can't, right? Okay, we are hypocrites. We are false people. We are double. And yes, pornography is another type of masturbation. How, for example, we men, how do we create lesbianism, psychological effects inside of us? Different ways to create lesbianism inside of us. Male psychics. Only by watching in a picture or in a video two women kissing each other on the lips. Two women kissing each other on the lips. Only by watching this scene, immediately women create our lesbian defects. How you women create your homosexual defects? Yes, by watching two men, between comillas, because these are not men and these are not women, by watching two men kissing each other on the lips. You women created your own homosexual defects. Watching pornography only by seeing a picture, etc., etc. For example. And not only you are creating your homosexual and lesbian defects, but also at the same time you're creating more and more masturbation defects only by watching pornography, for example. Yes, that's why I may insist, I have to insist in self-observing, in the self-observation of all our justifications, all our desires, and all our actions guided by our bad will. Yes, we betray our couples. Wow, we create a lot of suffering in that person. We create those desires of revenge. We let that person frustrated. We create more hate in that psyche. Probably, no probably, many times. Suicide, unfortunately, is a real action all around the world. due to adultery. We can make that our ex-couple gets suicide due to our bad will, due to our adultery. Can you imagine? Can you believe? Can you accept the type of karma you're accumulating in your own book of life? When you let yourself to be controlled by your own sexual desires, by your own mind, fights, separations, resentment, rancor, violence, right? Can you have your own calculus about the consequences of acting this way? Because it's not only the moment of pleasure for yourself. It's not only about being selfish in that moment, just thinking about your own pleasure when you're betraying your couple. Is to think about the consequences in that other people's life. Right? We don't think the consequences of our actions. We only let ourselves to be guided by our sexual desires, and that's all. And it creates a lot of karma for sure. Remember, I don't want to bother you, but I always be insisting in that sentence, in that statement. We receive what we give. So if we change ourselves with correct procedures, something as great as it is, sexual life, which is something great. Sex is something great and a half. It's something incredible. But please practice it correctly, with responsibility. Because all of us are seeing the consequences right now in this society. We've been fornicating as never seen before. Lust is the origin of the entire ego. Fornication is also the origin of the entire ego. All this pride, hate, rancors, lies, envies, worries, desperations, traumas are due to lust. This is the most difficult defect of eliminating in our psyche in order to achieve our self-realization. You can delete your pride, your envy, your hate. Yes, it's possible for sure. Your gluttonies, your worries, your traumas, your fears. But this is the most difficult defect to delete of our own psyche. It controls humankind destiny. With the correct usage of our sexual creative energy, we may become authentic spiritual masters through the practice of sexual alchemy. Right. But also through the bad usage of our sexual energy, literally, we can become ourselves in wizards, black magicians, and you women, witches. Believe it or not, wizards and witches are the result of the bad usage of the sexual creative energy in orgies, threesomes, and unsayable infrasexual practices here. Gods, goddesses, angels, archangels are the result of the good and correct usage of sexual creative energy through that called sexual alchemy, transmutation of sexual energies. So we make the decision. If we want to go back to the absolute, if we want to be an authentic divine hierarchy of the white brotherhood, the brotherhood that controls the destinies of all the solar system, literally, okay, let's start the process of purification daily, gradually, little by little, grain by grain. Obviously, it's a process. It's a long process. Infinite patience. Little by little, we'll becoming something different. An authentic witch is bisexual. Yes, is lesbian. Yes. An authentic wizard, black magician, is bisexual as well. They have no inconvenience to work with threesomes, to have sexual practices in orgies, and so on. Do you think that's right? Do we think that that is a correct example for our kids, the young people of our families, for the rest of our society? I think that we don't have here to give the answer to that question because it's obvious. Excuse me. The answer is something obvious here. But anyway, we should respect others' free will. There are more people than we think that yes, they like the idea and in fact they are practicing to be bisexuals, homosexuals, lesbians, etc., etc., etc. Yes, they have the right to choose that path in their lives. But if any one of us, without exception, any one of us, want to achieve the self-realization, we should learn to eliminate our ego, which is the cause, the origin of all these infrasexual practices. And yes, for sure, we must learn to practice sexual alchemy in the correct way. And yes, at the same time, spreading all these teachings, all this knowledge, as much as we can. The last and worst grade of degeneration is celibacy. Celibacy, the worst grade of degeneration of any person all around the world. What is the excuse here? The excuse is that it's possible to go back to God, to the heaven, to the paradise, without sex. When any one of us start hating sex, it's because we are too degenerated. Too degenerated. The usual, the normal, the correct is that we like sex. Yeah, for sure. It's normal. It's great. For sexual alchemy, it's necessary to love, to like sex. For sure. Gradually, little by little, during the different stages and processes of practicing sexual alchemy, will correct all those animal desires. All those infrasexual desires, little by little. We are purifying our sexual alchemy process gradually, little by little, but necessarily. It's mandatory to like sex because it's a natural behavior in our mankind. The worst is when any one of us don't like sex. And immediately the ego creates the excuse that it's possible to go back to God, to the heaven, to the paradise without sex. It's not possible to go back to God, to go back to the absolute. It's not possible to go back to the heaven without sex. This is the greatest justification and excuse of the ego. Celibacy. We want to learn to make love? Okay, practice sex. Suprasex, in fact. Suprasex. If we don't learn to transmute our sexual creative energies, we'll never know what is love. Love is something totally different that we've been believing, thinking, or feeling. Love, which is the highest law of the universe, is something beyond our understanding and our comprehension. To make love, it's necessary to learn to practice sexual alchemy. We've been deceived. Thanks to our beloved ego. If we don't eliminate our ego, working with our Divine Mother and our inner parent, we'll never have idea about what is love. Well, thank you very much for attending again this new lecture, this video conference, and well, you have a nice day, a nice weekend, and if there is any question or any doubt about this information, this specific topic, please let me know and shortly I will respond to you. Thank you. Bye.